one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wonder what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Everywhere I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I won't forget the lessons that I don't deserve.
Good morning, Robertson County. How you doing? This is 1100 WSG. I'm U-Turn Laverne, and this is One Street Over, and we are very excited to welcome to our phone lines this morning. We're just going to jump right in. Miss Pamela Furr is joining us this morning. How are you doing, sister?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. So thankful that you're able to do this with us. And if you're just coming on with us and you're wondering, what's Pamela Furr doing? This isn't WTN. Well, she is my friend. We are sisters in Jesus Christ and broadcast sisters. We've been, oh my gosh, we worked with the Blaze together. We've known each other a long time. And Pamela is working independently now. She is an independent contractor, I guess, and freelancer. Freelancer maybe would be the proper term. And so she is just working all over the place. And I said, wouldn't it be wonderful, since I've checked out of the political world, but I've not checked out. I'm still being a responsible believer, and that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I need to be caught up. I just don't spend, well, especially now that I'm teaching, I don't spend much time paying attention to the news. And so I need somebody to say, hey, believers, don't miss this. We need you on this. Because I think far too often we tend to kind of put that aside, and man, that's when things take over and really make our lives miserable. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's very fair. Yes, ma'am.
Well, and we've got you for a half hour, so I'm going to say just go and fill us in. I got Bill Jones coming in at the bottom of the hour, and we will eventually, get Congressman Green in here. Still trying to work all that out with his people, but I'll talk more about that later. So what's on your mind this morning, sister?
Oh my goodness. I mean, well, if you're going to talk about the political world in Tennessee politics, the only thing that you can talk about today is Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally. I
Yeah.
mean, he has, he's embarrassed himself and he's embarrassed the state.
Yep.
And there is a growing choir calling for at least his resignation as lieutenant governor. And I think we're going to see that probably. I'm predicting today, but I think this week we will know whether he will resign or whether the Senate's going to stand beside him and say, you know what, he was really stupid, but he's our guy.
I can't see it not ending in his resignation personally.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you something, Pam. Okay, I'm audio video production teacher now at Greenbrier, and I told my principal the other day, Dr. Osborne, I said, this really ought to be a required course for students, just audio video 1, because every single one of them are broadcasting. And how is it that how is it that he does not understand anything he puts out on social media is public? I do not understand. I just do not understand the lack of forethought of some of these folks. And then it makes me go, well, then you certainly don't need to be in leadership if you don't have any more common sense than that. And I'm sorry, that's me, not her talking. But anyway.
No, but that's really the truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, look, you're 79 years old.
I know.
You seemingly have all of your faculties, and at first, honestly, I kind of played the age card. My father is 81.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't know how to use social media if his life depended on it. So I could see, like my father, if he posted something, not realizing that everybody in the world can see it if it's in a public forum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see that. But Randy McNally's been using social media now for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he does his own posts. It's not his staff doing his posts.
Yeah.
It's Randy McNally doing his posts. So, now, I will have to say, I was at an event about 3 years ago. Actually, I think it was in Robertson County. It may have been Smith County, but regardless, he goes, I was talking to him, he said, do you want to take a selfie? And I said, sure. So we got in this selfie pose, and he goes, well, do you know how to do this? I said, well, I think so. You have to have a phone to take it. Oh, okay. So he pulls his phone out of his pocket, and then I show him how to do it. Anyway, so he was a little, what's the word, rusty on that one.
Right.
But that's been 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And again, he's posting his own stuff. And, I mean, he's posting from his lieutenant governor blue check accounts.
Yep.
I don't see how he's naive enough to, well, he's not denying it. He said, yeah, sure, I posted those things.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted this is the part that gets ridiculous. I just wanted to encourage these citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. All right, whatever.
Okay.
And from a spiritual standpoint, look, if he's got an issue with looking at scantily clad boys online, and I'm saying boys, they're not underage, but they're young. If he's got a problem with that, he's got to talk to God about that, his pastor, his family, whatever. But this was his lieutenant governor's account. We're embarrassed. He is now on a national stage embarrassed the state of Tennessee.
I know.
And it makes legislation that we have passed in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It makes a mockery of it all.
Yep.
And how do you recover from that? You can't.
Well, you just, and with that said, I cannot imagine that, at the age alone, he's 79 years old. I personally, I get to the place where I want to say, how many years are you going to stay in office? Can you not just, let somebody else step up? I'm a term limits kind of person. I've had a lot of people argue against that and made some really good points to me, and I get that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to, bang that drum, but I am of the ilk that says there comes a time when it's time to go home. and I think we're there. And I just think there's so many much better suited people to step into this role. And
of course, I mean, I would venture to say Jack Johnson will be the one that will take the role.
You think so?
He's the Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would just be the next natural step up to become the Speaker of the Senate. If you're already the Senate Majority Leader, that's the next step up. And as Speaker of the Senate, you become Lieutenant Governor. Here's the other thing, though. Look, he just, talking about McNally, he just had heart issues. He'd have had a stent put in, or it was a pacemaker. I can't remember which one. But he passed out there, had an incident there in the Senate during session and had to be taken to the hospital. So, and he recovered quickly and was back at work. That's awesome. But now his career is being stained or because of his activity online. And that's such a shame after having a seemingly stellar career for decades, that it's going to end this way. But I will say this too, Laverne, that Republicans, conservatives of faith who are taking stands on things that they believe here in this state, you better believe they've got a target on their back. Look, this stuff would not have been discovered had Republicans not had a target on their back from the left and from a very left-leaning publication known as the Tennessee Holler. There would have been, no one would have known any of this. So I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, that it's been exposed, but is that good? Yeah, probably so. But if you are a Republican and you are in office, I would warn everyone, get your house together, man. Don't let stuff like this happen.
Yeah.
Get your act together.
And I think both of you and I, having worked for Glenn, he was such a proponent of that, is like, if you've got something, just air it if it's in the past, and don't try to hide stuff and cover stuff up, and just be honest. And, you and I both have been a part of that and seen that as just crystal clear. Just don't try to keep secrets, because trust me, if you're in the public eye, they're going to get out, and it
will happen. Yeah,
it will happen.
Going to get out.
And again, it's what I say with my students: you are a broadcaster. Every single one of us are broadcasting your life. If you're doing anything on social media, you are subject to the public, and when you put it out there, make sure it's something that you want to stand behind.
Absolutely, 100%. If you wouldn't want it on a billboard in the middle of downtown Nashville, then don't text it, don't email it, don't post it. All of those things. Just don't even. And here's the other thing: they're 17, right? Maybe 16 in your classes. I don't know how old they are.
Well, 20 plus. I mean,
upwards
of 30 some. I mean, in my cat time, I've got 30. So,
they know better. But what they do at 20 could come back and haunt them 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
Something that may just seem a little innocent and maybe a tad risque today could be crazy in 10 years. So just be careful.
I thought you were talking about the number in the class. You're talking ages. I'm talking, I typically have 14, 15, 16. I've got some 17-year-olds, juniors and seniors, but I have a lot of that 14, 15, 16 range. So really high school age are what I'm coming in contact with, and as they come in freshman year, I'm gonna hit them hard with social media, the ones that are coming into Audio Video One, and talk about the implications of this, because I don't know that people. Let me ask you, are you on TikTok? This is just random. I
signed up for an account maybe a year ago, never used it, and I have since deleted it off all of my devices and whatnot. No, it's gone. Yeah.
Well, and I tell the students all the time, I said, just look at the news and the fact that it's not allowed on any kind of federal government I had said to them, it's not allowed in the buildings, but it's actually anything that is a device that is owned by the federal government. It's not allowed, which to me seems like, why would you have social media on government-owned things unless it is something that is the public information's person? I don't know. I just don't understand that part of it, but I digress. So,
because it's such an addiction that we these days it's a necessity, and I would encourage you also maybe to teach your students you don't have to comment on everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like everything, and you don't have to make a comment on it.
That is correct. Well, I actually while we're building the audio video program, I'm also teaching a business communications class and an intro to business and marketing class. So my business communications class, one part of it is dealing with being a good digital citizen and talking about the netiquette. Instead of etiquette, you're participating in good online netiquette, right?
Did you make that up?
No. This is all part of the state curriculum.
Oh, I was going to say, because netiquette is fantastic.
Yeah, it's part of the state curriculum.
I love that.
Yes, netiquette. And so they're taught, we teach them about being a digital citizen. And we talk all about this stuff and how that you don't, of course, not cyberbullying. We talk about that, again, part of the state curriculum. Right. And we also talk about something called flaming. Do you know what is flaming, Paula? What would you define? And this is part of the curriculum.
Flaming. I have no idea.
Flaming is when you basically are trying to instigate outrage. You know how people will get online and they'll say something that they know is just going to incite people because maybe they have liberal friends. And so they go and they post something and they tag their liberal friend in it. You're flaming. You're like, trying to pick fights constantly. So flaming and cyberbullying netiquette are three terms that we talk about in this business communications class. And so we cover the social media aspect in business communications, and I cover it because I choose to in audio video, and it is part of the curriculum as well. But because we have standards when we come in with these classes that are career type classes, there are state standards that coincide, that you go by. And so those are part of the state standards for audio video and for business communications. But it's something our kids need to know. And you would think our political officials would already know it. I'm just saying.
They don't, obviously. Oh, my gosh, yeah. You know what? I have to wonder. It's funny you say this. I wonder if after what has happened with Randy McNally, if maybe the Speaker of the House, maybe Governor Lee mandates that the General Assembly, members of the General Assembly, take a class on flaming and netiquette, and as part of their, orientation going into the next session, that you learn, maybe, some cautionary instructions on how to move forward with your official accounts that are part of your, part of being a lawmaker. Your blue-checked state senator or state representative accounts, how to handle those and not do something stupid that's going to completely not only derail your career but embarrass the state.
Let me just say, Governor Lee, Senator Kerry Roberts, I'll be glad to come teach that class for you. I'll put you together. I'll put you together a presentation. Yeah, and I'll come and bring it to you. And from my background in media, I'm your girl. Yeah. I'm your girl. So let's go. I'll come and teach that, and that would be a hoot. That would be fun. I'll have to, because you talk about candidates, dare I say, for the speaker and all that. Senator Kerry Roberts, I'd love to see him on up in there, but our senator right here, but we would love to see, because he's good.
He'd be a good one.
Oh, he's so good. I mean, I don't know if you've gotten to know Senator Roberts, but
I have.
Man,
yes,
he's
absolutely.
just he gets the history of it. He just understands the Constitution. God bless him. And we don't have a lot of politicians that truly understand their role, you know.
Right.
And I
right.
respect him so much. And man, I'd love to see him. And of course, we're putting the cart before the horse here, but he'd be a super candidate. And just saying, you know, of course, that's Robertson County.
Oh, you
talking.
mean for lieutenant governor?
Yeah. I know. Oh, I'd love to see.
Or how about do this, you know,
Yeah.
because again, you've got the Senate
Yeah.
Majority Leader, Jack Johnson. Move him up to lieutenant governor and then make Kerry Roberts the Senate Majority Leader.
There you go.
How about that?
There you go. However it has to work. We would surely like to throw Senator Kerry Roberts' name into the mix for some of this leadership stuff. And he has been. I mean, he is already in leadership. And so nonetheless, he's going to kill me. He's a good friend, you know, he's a good friend. And he and I have not discussed this at all. No. And so just anyway. But so what else is on your mind, my friend? What else is on your mind?
Oh my gosh! Well, I mean, that's really that's really the main the big one right there. If you're going to talk about, you know, Tennessee politics, the other thing I guess that, you know, in the last week or so that's really bothered me a lot is, you know, our own. See, I'm pointing my finger even at myself because I have to be careful with this in different freelancing reporting that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I hate these titles that media, our own local Tennessee media, has given to some of these bills that have been passed. The anti-trans bill.
Yes.
Well, it's not an anti-trans bill. This anti-drag bill. Well, it's not an anti-drag bill. You know, so I hate these titles that they've come up with that give the impression that these laws that have been passed are something other than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that there may be some lawmakers who are completely anti-trans. There may be some lawmakers who are completely anti-drag. But these particular bills that have been passed so far, I wouldn't label them that way. And that has gotten on my nerves a lot because it's not accurate. If you wanted to say anti-drag, anti-sexually explicit drag bills, then that would be more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to say, you know, anti-transgender surgeries for minors bill, that would be more accurate. But the way that they've been portrayed has really, I think, put us in a bad light when these are not what these bills are about. Here's the other thing, too. In the news business, as they say these days, most people aren't reading the entire story. Most people aren't listening to the entire story. All they see is that headline. So you've got people in Kentucky and Florida and Georgia and Denver, Colorado and California. They see that Tennessee is passing an anti-drag bill, and that's what they believe is truly happening when it's not. They're not going to dive any deeper at all. And that, to me, is just completely unfortunate because it's just not the truth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I have to watch doing because I don't spend a lot of time in the media. I will, you know, scan the headlines and then I'll like, what is that actually? And so all of this stuff about marriage and things like that, because, and you and I both, we share interracial, we have interracial marriages in our family.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're from interracial families. So
exactly.
when that's in the headline, you're like, what? And so all it is just saying that if you've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, the bill that they've put out about this, it's saying that if you've got religious issues, you don't have to perform a marriage, right?
Right, that's it. So that means you can find somebody else to perform the marriage.
Yeah.
It's not saying that Tennessee is going to stop conducting gay marriages. It says that if you, what's the word, solemnize, I think is the technical word,
right.
That if you are required to solemnize a marriage, if you have a religious disagreement with that particular marriage, you will not be required to perform that marriage. So it's I guess protecting county clerks and whatnot from having to perform a marriage if they don't want to, if it goes against their religious beliefs.
And so,
when was the last time a county clerk perform the marriage ceremony?
I know.
That doesn't happen very often,
But too, also the part where they're bringing in the racial issue, I don't think, is that in the language at all? I think that's something they're just assuming and saying.
I think they're assuming.
I think so too. I haven't either.
Yeah.
But that's in the headline. That's in the headline.
That's what I'm saying. That's what bothers me.
Yes, and it just blows my mind. I thought I don't understand how they can come to that, and unless it's in the language that I have not read, because when I saw that, I thought, okay, I've got to go look at this one, because what are they doing? Right. And I didn't find anything, and that's the only thing I can come up with is they're going to say, well, there are some religions that said that you can't do that. Well, you might need to find another church then.
Right.
Just saying. But all right, my friend, we've got about 5 minutes. Bill's going to come in here and take over at 7:30. But what else do you want to cover before we wrap up our time? And thank you so much for making time for us to do this. I messaged you last week because I was thinking it was the second Monday, and I was like, oh no, it's not the second Monday yet.
I completely failed to see that message. So
no worries.
I apologize for that. Well, I'll just say this as we close. So I'm also on the side as a side hustle. Is that what the kids use?
Yeah, I guess.
Side hustle.
Yeah.
I am president of the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, and we're doing our big reveals last week and this week of some of the people that are going into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame this year.
Mm-hmm.
Our beloved Phil Valentine will go in this year as part of the legacy class of 2023 with some others that are just pretty phenomenal, like Sam Phillips, you know from Sun Records, and Elvis Presley.
Yes.
That's a good one. And then we're doing the big reveals on some folks that you'll know. I can't tell you right at this moment, but it's supposed to happen later today.
Yay.
And when I do, I'll let you know. You'll love it.
Okay, I already know
then. A lot
then.
of fun.
I bet I know. So.
Maybe you text me your answer when we get off the air, because I can't.
Okay.
I can't say.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll text you when I finish up, because my phone's up there, recording this right now, or broadcasting this. So yeah, I'll message you. I'll message you when I'm on after in the parking lot before I engage my car and drive out of the parking lot. I'll message you. I think it is. So I have a pretty good idea.
But that's always a lot of fun. You, as you said at the beginning of this segment, you and I have been in this broadcasting world for a long time. Yeah. And what I love about Tennessee radio is that you're talking about a format that has created industries like Memphis radio created rock and roll, Bristol, Tennessee radio created country music, R&B with Nashville, Tennessee, WLAC. And then I love the fact that we have so many, like your radio station, so many radio stations across the state that are a part of their small communities that do work for their communities. That you're not going to get on these bigger, larger stations. That's important work of information and staying involved in high school sports and all those things. Mm-hmm. And it's important work. And so with the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, we don't want those stations to think that they've been forgotten, because they haven't been.
I love that. And I need to pay my dues. I always forget to do it. So you'd think I'd get that done since I know you so well, but And you talk about the local stuff. We've got the director of schools coming on tomorrow. Dr. Chris Cosby comes on. We'll have the county mayor. And the city manager for Springfield. And we have all the chambers of commerce. United Way comes in here once a week. I cannot say enough about our connection up here with United Way. Our United Way up here in Robertson County, bridge, they build the bridges to the nonprofits. They're amazing. And they come in once a week and just keep us up to date on that. We do have a sports come in once a week as well to update us on the high school sports. And Wednesday, the East Robertson Indians, they're going to be playing in the state tournament. So we got
nice,
we still got some kiddos in state. Yeah, so we got some of our Robertson County kiddos. East Robertson's going to be at state on Wednesday, so root them on. So where can we hear you next? Where are you going to be? When are you going to be on?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know.
Okay.
I'm on in Memphis in the mornings, and then I do some reports for a show called America in the Morning. That's an overnight news show.
Right.
But other than that, good question. I don't know, but you can find me on socials except for TikTok. And I promise, I will not be doing heart and fire emojis on inappropriate accounts.
There you go. Let's not. And if you hear from the grapevine that they need a teacher to come in and teach them about these things in the state legislature, just tell them U-Turn's ready. Just tell them, because I'm studying the curriculum. I can bring it, and we can talk about flaming and etiquette and being a good digital citizen. I would love to teach our legislators all about those things. Love you, sister. You take care.
Love you too.
Thank you so much. Pamela Furr. Follow her, get a hold of her, and talk to her. She is a dear friend of mine and a great friend of this program as well. So I hope you will check her out. Now, we're going to have Bill Jones come on in here at 7:30. He should be arriving just any minute. But while we're waiting for him to come on in here, I'm going to take a pause. And we're going to talk about Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center, getting busy out there. They got their hands in the dirt. If you go to their social media page, you're going to see their hands in the dirt, getting all their bedding plants ready for your garden. Now, keep in mind that if you start trying to plant stuff outside, there is a freeze warning over the next couple of days. I have the sheriff's app, and I got that little notification from Robertson County Sheriff's Department saying, warning, freeze advisory. And I live down in the holla. It freezes on my little area, will freeze a lot of times and have frost when others don't. So there's no way I'm putting anything out right now unless I'm going to cover it. Never throw your old sheets away or give them away. Keep those to cover your plants, your plants. Even when my wisteria starts blooming that I have on a trellis, I'll cover it to try to protect it, because sometimes we'll have those late frosts. You've just got to keep in mind, this is the time of the year that we're getting excited. We're ready for things to get growing, but you got to be careful and be ready to protect them, because you can still have those freezes really even in through April. Typically, we will say April 15th is that day to plant your tomatoes. But last few years, we've had some hard freezes even after the 15th. So keep that in mind, that you got to be careful out there, guys. Come on in here, Bill. But as we get ready to just remind you that you could have some freezing, get out and talk to them at Corbin Creek. They're open still the winter hours, 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday. Sunday they're open from 1 to 4, and you can go and see them. Just drop in on them, 4920 Highway 161, or give them a call, 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185. Let them know. I'll go and talk to them about the CBD products that are Robertson County CBD, produced from all the plants that her brother Bill grows. But when you go and talk to them, just be sure and let them know that U-Turn sent you. And getting back into the show, my friend Bill Jones has just joined us. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming on in here. So
you called me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But anyway, Bill is with us this morning, and I had this. Typically, whenever we have Pamela in, ideally we're going to try to get Congressman Green in. Now, I've talked to his people a couple of times, and we just haven't been able to get our rhythm going on that. But we will. We'll get it worked out. I've been assured that we're going to get him on the phone and get into a rhythm of getting him checking in with us like John Rose did. John has even said, hey, you can call me. So I may give John a call and just say, hey, what's happening up in the house? And so we may even do that for just to see what's going on. But how are you doing this morning, sir?
This time change gets me.
I know. I was late to church yesterday.
I think it may not do anymore. Are they talking about doing away with it?
They do. They did. They've been saying that for 20 years.
Well, I was reading back some old historical articles in the 50s, and they almost changed it and didn't do it for some reason.
I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, and maybe it will, because I've had several ask me about that, and I've, in my time in the media, I have seen it get it seems to have gotten close a few times.
Yeah.
And then they just pass on it, and I don't really know why. So I would love it. But, of course, you have to get used to getting out in the dark in the morning. But Mark and I, we get up so early Monday through Friday.
I do normally. Today I didn't.
Yeah, well,
you woke me up this morning.
Well, and typically we don't set an alarm on the weekend because we tend to just wake up because And so yesterday morning, my mother accidentally called me, and if it hadn't been for that, I'd have slept right through church, and I got there super late. But I was like, oh, no. But anyway, so what do you want to talk about, brother?
Time change.
Okay, let's do it.
I was working on something
Okay.
anyway, and I thought I just didn't finish it last night, so I printed out what I had real quick this morning, then disappeared. I had to print it again, so it made me a little bit late. Anyway, I found 6 illuminating facts about time change. Daylight savings time.
Okay, let's hear it.
Anyway, I'm going to have to read some of this because it's not fresh in my mind right now. Who do you think invented this time change?
I thought it was connected to farming.
Well, actually, we'll talk about in a minute. Dairy farmers hate it because cows, are
of course,
on a certain time.
Yeah.
But anyway, most people thought Benjamin Franklin started it. But he didn't. When he was in France, when the Revolutionary War was going on, he moved over to France for a while. Mm-hmm. And when he was over there, he wrote a paper about maybe we should get up and go to bed when the sun rises and sets instead of time, which that's what they did in biblical times. That's how they set their hours. They didn't have clocks in biblical times. They had watches at night, and every 3 hours was a watch, and when the sun came up, that's when their day. Well, no, that's not correct. When the sun goes down is when their day started, and through the night, and then
a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah,
a 24-hour cycle, because that's how the Shabbat,
right.
The Sabbath, starts at sunset. Right.
So they didn't have a watch or sundials either, actually. But it's something else interesting. I'm always running across things. Sunday school class got me into something yesterday, and somebody asked me about. Well, we get into that later. But anyway,
no, go ahead. You can't tease that.
Brain is full
you
of
can't
stuff.
tease that, and you got to tell us.
Tell
us.
Okay. We were talking about in the Sunday school lesson Sunday about the pool of Bethesda. And the lame man who's laying by the pool, and I was looking at that, and I got a book on Roman Empire, and it's the most interesting book. And I was reading back then, and the Greeks had developed, and Romans developed these pools from springs, and they had them all over Rome and all over the place where they would funnel, and they came up with aqueducts and all that in the Roman aqueduct. Anyway, they funnel these little springs in the pools all over the city, Bethesda and other places also. And some of the pools were called healing pools, and that's what this man was doing. He had his bed. Now, a lot of translations will say mats, which is what it was, but it was his bed. Back then, you think an Eastern thought was Jesus told this man to take up your bed and walk. Well, can you imagine us picking up a queen-size bed, because, their beds was just a mat. And at night, in the houses in biblical times, they didn't have rooms. They all slept in one room. So they rolled up their mat in the morning and put it in the corner. That was their bed. But anyway, this man was 38 years old. He laid by the pool of Bethesda, in Bethesda, for 38 years. And in biblical times, that's pretty old. Most people didn't even live past 45 in that period of time. So anyway, this pool was a special pool that they had all around town. It was called a healing pool. And there was a Greek god that had a mythology to him that he was a healing god. His name was Asclepion, and he was known for using water and snakes to heal people. That's where our medical little symblem comes from,
really?
With a pole and the snake on it. That's where it came from, that Greek god, Asinium.
Okay.
So anyway, they thought, the Greek mythology thought that if that water was troubled, in other words, rippled, and sometimes when there's rain up above where the spring is and fed down that pool, all of a sudden the water would ripple, that whoever the first one could get in the water would be healed. And that wasn't a Christian, that wasn't a Jewish thought, that was a
Pagan.
Greek mythology they had back then. So that's why he was there. And I thought, well, that's very interesting, and I read some more about the water and the pools and all, they they didn't have soap and water back then. People all got in the water together, which was I don't know if I'd do that. But anyway, they had these pools all around, and people would lay around them, and I can imagine, in John 5, it talks about all these people that were around there waiting for the angel of healing to come and trouble the water. In other words, make the water ripple. And there was no such angel that did that. That was a myth. And I think in the Sunday school lesson, they took that verse in chapter 5, the latter part of verse 3 and 4. They took it out. They didn't have it in the lesson. And so I was talking about how that was added. That was put in there as a footnote by scribes describing why they were sitting at the pool because of the Greek mythology. And so in the lesson, they took it out because it really wasn't in the original Word of God. But I added it in to explain, because some of the manuscripts had about the angel who would come trouble the water and blah, blah, blah. But if you were a newbie to the Bible and you read that, you'd think, well, the Bible teaches us an angel that comes and, so on and so forth. So the Sunday school lesson just took it out, but I explained to them why it was taken out. They didn't understand why
I had
is it
never
gone?
heard that it was not a part of the original text.
Yeah, it's
that
John 5.
Okay.
And then if you look in your King James Bible, I gave you one, and it'll have the rest of verse 3 and all of 4 in there, telling about that. But in the lesson, which I think whoever wrote the lesson Sunday was really smart because they took it out, and it wasn't original.
Okay.
And it's really some things are iffy, it wasn't in the original manuscripts, and then some it was. But this one is pretty solid that it wasn't there.
Okay.
It was just a footnote they added on the side, because when scribes copied the Bible, they had to do it by candlelight and one person writing one thing at a time. And what they would do is put footnotes in the side explaining why that was. And then sometime later, somebody added it in like it was the original word, but it wasn't.
That's very interesting. I had never heard that.
There's some things, I hesitate to talk about that because then I've got my adversaries who will say to me, you can't trust the Bible, Well, no. If you understand how it's done, how it was written, how it was copied and all that, it's not like that at all. It's true. Every word in there is true. But you've got to understand, as I always talk about, Orientalisms and Eastern customs. I've got a book. I think everybody ought to have a book on Eastern customs and manners of the Bible. And but anyway, it explains why, how, when they did all this kind of thing, so that it just clarifies everything that you read in the Bible. Not everything, just about everything. But anyway, I'm getting way off track.
Well, that's okay, because I like it. Whenever you threw something out like that, I would have been so curious if you hadn't clarified that. Because I find that fascinating, because I had never heard that was not originally in Scripture.
I had somebody reading it. I said, "Now, would you read verse 4?" And they look in their book and said, "Well, they made a mistake. They left verse 4."
Yeah.
No, they left it out on purpose. Thank goodness whoever was writing the Sunday school lesson book
understood that,
knew what they were doing.
Very good. That's fascinating.
I thought it was really good.
Since we went there, let me go ahead and tell people what the reading is for today. Today is today the 13th? Yes, the 13th. So we're in Joshua 1 through 4. We've finished up Deuteronomy yesterday, but we're in Joshua 1 through 4 and Psalm 65. And I encourage you, if you're behind, just get you an audio Bible on Bible Gateway, whatever, and just start listening to it. And if you think, well, I like to turn the pages too, but I get really busy, but I have really enjoyed listening to it audibly. And if I miss something, I go back and I listen to a chapter again. I've been listening to the Psalms just one after another, and that's been awesome as well. But I'm a little behind in the Psalms, but I'll catch it up. And I just encourage you to be a part of one of these studies and get in the Word every single day. But we're in Joshua now, 1 through 4, and Psalm 63, if you're reading along with us at Bethlehem Baptist. And you can reach out, or no, we're in Psalm 65. And if you want to reach out to Rachel and get her emails, she sends out great stuff, great devotionals that go along with this. And we're going to pause and talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team, my friends in real estate. They're up in Cross Plains. They've been there for something like 27 years. They're Robertson Countyans. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but they buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Great folks in the community. Barry put together the video. If you were at the Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center dinner last Monday, he put that together for them. He's been doing that for several years now. He helps me in the audio video class. Rebecca, they're just so involved in the community. They'll be at the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. They help present that every year. So many things. They love the community. They love what they do, and they would love to help you at the real estate table, whether you're buying or selling, whatever it is. Barry's a marketer. If you've got property out there and people are just not giving it a look, you probably need new pictures, maybe some video. What about some drone footage? All those things. Rebecca studies all the time. She's been at this a long time, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. So she makes sure that she's up to date on everything she needs to be to make sure that you're properly represented at the table. You can connect with them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy@robertsoncounty.com, or connect with them. Just call Becky, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Let her know you from St. Joe. Bill Jones is in the house, and we're talking about anything we want to, but talking specifically about daylight savings time. And he brought to the table here some things he's been working on. So let's get back over into that.
Okay.
And what can you share?
I'm famous for getting off.
Oh, please. Me too. You should have heard the show Friday. It was all over the place. I don't know if you heard it or not.
I usually listen to it, but
It was a trail. It was a trail.
I found 6 facts about daylight saving time. That
Okay.
was interesting to me because a lot of them I didn't know. One of them I thought Ben Franklin admitted it, but he didn't. As I mentioned earlier, he was in France and wrote a paper about we all should just go by sun up and sundown instead of clocks. But they all laughed at him and thought it was funny. This is unbelievable, but the way it got started was a man named George Vernon Hudson in New Zealand. He was a postal worker, and he chased bugs on his time off. That was his hobby, of chasing bugs and butterflies and things. And he wanted a time change so that he could have more time to get off work to chase his bugs in daylight. And so he suggested it in 1895, and that they spring ahead 2 hours. Well, he was laughed at, of course, but he was
Thank
the one
goodness.
that came him up. But later, New Zealand in 1927 took that up, and they were the first country that introduced the daylight saving time. Parliament gave an award to Hudson for a medal for his ingenuity. Isn't that something? You know,
Yes,
postal
over
worker.
bugs?
Yeah.
Oh, I truly thought it was about farming.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. I'm jumping ahead. Okay.
No, about cow farmers, you know.
Oh, okay.
35% of the countries adjust their clocks seasonally. Only 35%. I thought the whole world did, but that's not true. Germany was the first country that took it up, daylight saving time, in 1916. And then then other countries took it on, but most countries around the equator wouldn't do it because their sun is not like ours here, or in Alaska is different, you know. So,
of course.
But around close to the equator, they thought it was ridiculous and didn't do it.
Does
So
Israel?
total-
Israel? Do they in Israel?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
That took 70 countries decided to do it when they did
Okay.
decided early. In 1966, the United States made it a federal law to go on time change. And I think when I was reading some old stuff, must have been in the 60s, I guess, where they were arguing about it. And the Congress was, or maybe it was the 50s too, but they've been discussing it a long time. And like you say, probably they'll discuss it again and keep on doing it, I suppose. But
I'd love to
I
see
sort of
this.
wish we'd stay the same.
So you said it went into effect in
1966.
Really? I thought it was way before that.
I did too.
Huh. Okay.
It was mandated in 1966, and 2 states didn't do it, and that was Arizona and Hawaii. They wouldn't take part in it. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it is. It caused a real, you know, in World War I, they talked about it. You know, it's always talk about it and not do it. Talk about it, not do it. In World War I, Woodrow Wilson in 1918
Can't stand
signed
that guy.
legislation that created the country's 5 time zones. Now we have time zones. We didn't have time zones until World War One. That's amazing to me. And Easter Sunday time savings time went in effect for the first time ever there then. But I think what really had the biggest impact on it is train schedules for time zones, because trains travel one end of the country to another, and they had a real problem with their clocks, because if they leave New York and go to California, big difference there. So when Woodrow Wilson formed the time zones, then they could get their clocks set and right and know where they were, and had their train schedules where they could write it out and schedule it. Before that, it was very confusing about their train schedules. And I found out, that was the time shift they had at Easter then in 1919, repealed in 1919. They did it, at Sunday, Easter Sunday thing they did in 1918, they repealed it in 1919, so it didn't last long then. That's when, that's why I say back in 1966 is when the federal government mandated it.
Okay.
The daylight savings time used to have different nicknames. They call it the wartime wartime in World War One, and then World War II. It was placed year-round from February 1942 to 45, when it ditched at the war, stopped calling it the war's end, the wartime. They stopped using it again. And then it changed to its modern title in 1966 when Congress passed that Uniform Time Act and standardized the time zones and standardized the start and the end dates of daylight savings time, among other things. So they standardized in 1966 so much of all of that. And their dairy cows, farmers, weren't the biggest fans of them, because it said it changes provided the biggest benefit for farms, though if cows could speak, they might say otherwise. Farmers who supposedly benefit from the extra hour of light in the afternoon have heavily lobbied against the time change since it was the first enacted in 1918. That's partially because it's confusing for livestock, which I can understand that.
Of course.
Such as dairy cows and goats throwing off their feeding and milking schedules. Some farmers say the loss of morning light also makes it more difficult to complete necessary chores early in the day, and impacts how they harvest and move crops to market. While farmers have pushed to drop daylight saving time, some industries, like the golf industry, have campaigned to keep it for their benefits. The extra daylight is known for bringing more putters into the courses, generating millions golf gear sales, game fees, etc. Other big business supporters include the barbecue industry, which sell more grills and charcoal in a month with longer daylight hours, and candy companies benefiting from the longer trick-or-treating hours in Halloween. Isn't that something that, those people are influencing our congressmen.
So so if would we be right when we're springing forward or when we're falling back? Which one is the accurate time?
I don't know.
If they said it, are we going to stay sprung forward, or are we going to stay falling back?
Last I heard, they were going to leave it spring forward. But I don't know that's right. I
don't have a clue. But interesting. Because it seems like that the springing forward would be the one that's off.
I don't know.
If they were adding time,
it does seem off to me.
Yeah, but if they were adding time, then they're saying, well, we want longer days, so we're gonna spring it forward. So that seems to be the off time. So it would be when we fall back, we stay that way.
Have you ever thought of why they changed it at 2:00 in the morning?
No.
That had to do with trains, because the trains at 2:00 in the morning, there were less changeovers and passengers at 2:00 in the morning. So that's why they started it at 2, and it still does it at 2:00.
Interesting. Because on your phones, that's when they change.
My cell phone, my watch, computers all change times automatically. So if they do away with it, somebody's going to have to teach the computers, don't do this.
Oh my goodness! Well, you get into the Y2K.
Yeah.
Well, what will they do? They won't be able to figure it out. But
well, I thought that was interesting.
well, it would probably be in the update when you have your update on your phone. It'd probably just be a software
Also,
update.
that time change had to do with bars. Because there weren't nothing going on at 2:00 in the morning.
Okay,
Usually,
so
most bars and restaurants.
That's
so the bars and restaurants
last
were
call.
for it. The trains were for it.
Right.
So that's how 2:00 came out.
Okay, let me go ahead and do this last break, and then we'll
Okay.
come back and wrap it up. Talking with Bill Jones, I knew he'd bring something interesting to the table, the unknown facts about the time change. And will they keep it? Who knows? Let's talk about Cumberland. We've talked about Cumberland Connect. You're Cumberland Connect, right? Or are you getting Cumberland
I've
Connect?
got it.
You've got it.
I've been out for a week because a tree fell on my lines.
Oh,
But
no.
they came and hooked it back up
Okay.
Friday.
Okay, so you got back. So you did, because what was really interesting, because my power was out, but I could not see any lines down. And so while my power was out, I was out from Friday to Sunday. And once we saw we weren't going to get power, we turned the generator on to keep the frozen food and all of those things. I thought, I wonder if my internet works. And I plugged it into the generator, and I had internet, even though I didn't have power, because I plugged it into my generator. And so I had a gig whenever you would think everything was shut down. So we adapted very, very nicely. I'm really enjoying Cumberland Connect. It's wonderful. It is wonderful.
They're solid.
If you are a Cumberland Electric customer, it is powered. Cumberland Connect is powered by CEMC, and they want to let you know they're coming to your neighborhood. They may already be there. Go and check it out. CumberlandConnect.org is where you can put in your address and just say, hey, when are they going to get here? You can call them at 1-800-987-2362. Get a gig, $80. I was paying $65 for terrible internet. I was getting like a 3.5 upload. Now I'm in the 500-600 speeds. It's amazing. I love it. I'm going to get me an extender. I haven't done that yet. Maybe over spring break I'll get that done. But they've got an affordable connectivity program as well that provides qualifying households with monthly credit to help you pay for internet services. If you're eligible, you may qualify for a credit of up to $30 per month toward broadband services, and that'll get you taken care of. So it's a utility now, guys. It's a necessity. I talk to my kids in my classes we talk about wants and needs. It's really a need now. It is something just like a phone line. It is something you need, and people recognize that. So that's the reason for the Affordable Connectivity Program. Talk to them. Call 1-800-987-2362 or go to CumberlandConnect.org, CumberlandConnect.org, 1-800-987-2362. Cumberland Connect, a full-time sponsor of this program. Thank them for being a sponsor and telling you and Bill and everybody else that's on the program that I help talk about it. But what else you want to talk about?
You know,
Charlotte?
the box you get from Cumberland Connect, if you can set it up on a high shelf, it will help. It'll go further through the house. I first set mine on the floor.
Yeah.
And then when I set it up on this cabinet I had there, it did better. And I thought, well, if I build a little shelf in the ceiling or way up, the higher it is, the better off it is. So you may not need an extender, but they're simple to do and they're not expensive.
Yeah, I'm wanting to get it to the barns. I
doubt if you do that.
I do photography, and as I get more and more into it, my barn is going to be a studio, and the grounds is of course my first muse, but I want to do some things in the barns, and it would really be nice to have internet in there. And of course, my husband does work out in the barns all the time, and he's like, I would love to have
something
internet.
I was thinking about this morning, what you're doing at Greenbrier, that's a first. And I can remember back in the 80s when I was the first around here to sell computers at a Radio Shack franchise. So I took a computer to Greenbrier, and I set it up for them, and I said, look, I didn't know anything about programming. They taught basic then, and I didn't want to do that. But anyway, I set it up, and there were two teachers there that took interest. And long story short, they began teaching a computer course. And they had a room, and I got a picture of them with all they're bending over the students at each computer monitor and the big old fat thing, And that's how computers got started, was in Greenbrier. And I thought, here you are doing audio video in Greenbrier, the first school, I suppose.
Well, if you talk to Josh Evans, they had an audio video program when he was there, and I have to. We're doing podcasting, and we're going to do the one, of course, just about the school, about what's going on around the community and in the school. But we're going to do one called "Who We Were," and it's a history program. I want you to come in and do
I'd
that
like to
with
see
the
that.
kids.
Yeah.
And we're planning on starting podcasting as soon as we get back from spring break. And so we're waiting on our desk and all, but we're just going to get going. So we're going to do that. I want you to come in and tell that story because that's fascinating. And then we'll get Josh in too to talk about the original
Well, my
audio
whole
video
idea was
program.
sell them computers.
Well, of course,
but
that's okay.
the two teachers thought, and they started teaching basic, they started teaching computers, and it just flourished. Then it started going everywhere, and there people were teaching classes at Springfield High at nighttime about computers, and it just.
I need that image. Find that image if you can. Can you get your hands on that image?
It's on my computer somewhere.
Okay, because
about 1,000 pictures.
But we need that image because we can put that up with the broadcast and make that just a whole package. So there you go.
Okay.
There's I've got like a list of topics that I'm making, and I'm having the students do them as well, doing show prep. That's an assignment now, show prep. But we're out of time, brother. You got any parting thoughts?
Yeah, that's been thought. Well. I'm glad this is available to the community. I'm sure people learn stuff listening to you and learn about our community. We don't have things like we used to. The radio station would tell us when school was not in and all kind of stuff, and we don't have that now. We think we have more advanced news, but we really are sort of limited. So I'm glad your show is here because you tell a lot of things on it. It's just very unique, and there's a lot more people listening than you think because I have people comment to me all the time about it.
Awesome.
I'm amazed.
I'm
really amazed.
Well, we appreciate you guys listening, and this is 1100 WSGI, and we appreciate so much what Ilya Maldonado allows us to do here. And if you want to be a part of Ebenezer Broadcasting, reach out to him and share your ideas with him because this is a worldwide Christian broadcast facility. And we got a pretty awesome terrestrial signal too. Covers Robertson County and the surrounding counties right on the edges. So check us out. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bill, for being my call and say, hey, come on in. Appreciate you.
I live close by.
I know it. I appreciate you, Bill. And thanks to Pamela Furr for joining us this morning. Dr. Chris Causey will be in here tomorrow. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a great day.
Will you catch me if I gave